Thank you so much for allowing me to be with you on this webinar this afternoon. I hope my contribution will give some insight as to the living conditions of transgender people who are incarcerated within the penal system, as well as shed some light on many of the contributing factors that expose trans people to violence and lead many of them to be incarcerated in the first place. Although I am addressing those who are incarcerated, you will find threads about how trans people are treated throughout the culture as a whole. Views expressed here, of course, are my own and do not represent every opinion available. I encourage you to have independent conversation, thus broadening your own point of view, and use my contribution as a start or continuance on the subject. Let me tell you a bit about myself. In 2000, I began working as a HIV harm reduction specialist for a local nonprofit organization that focused on health and HIV prevention for persons incarcerated within Los Angeles County Jail System. Although not an employee of the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department, I was known as a civilian employee and held an office inside of the Los Angeles County Men's Central Jail, focusing on the gay, bisexual, and transgender segregated population, or at that time known as the K-11 unit, commonly referred to as the gay dorm. There were always common threads in counseling transgender clients, ranging from low self-esteem, drug addiction, peer and family rejection, homelessness, and sex work. Many of the times I felt like an entire culture worked to support these experiences within communities. There were often instances where getting persons who were chemically addicted placed in residential treatment facilities was beyond difficult. The conversation went from outright rejection to a discussion about the challenges of housing a trans resident. There were few instances where transitioning clients from the penal system into treatment or housing did not include lengthy discussion about the meaning of transgenderism or confronting common curiosities about the community, none of which were relevant to drug treatment or client placement. Still, I encourage my clients to move beyond the criminal element that led to incarceration and live purposeful lives that they could define for themselves and pursue with passion. Many of my clients had no idea that they could be drug-free and live outside of the penal system. They had never seen a transgender person who was gainfully employed, academically trained, and had a healthy sense of self-esteem. All they had ever been told and consequently believed was that they were an ostracized, marginalized group of people. They were told that they were mentally ill simply because they were transgender, that their lives of addiction and incarceration were a direct connection to their self-discovery and pursuing to live fully in their womanhood. And of course, since I worked at the Men's Central Jail, this did not include the female-to-male population. A great majority of my work outside of the topic of HIV prevention focused on debunking all of these myths that transgender people had and that service providers had about transgender people. This is a good place to discuss the commonalities related to trans inmates. Homelessness was a common theme and superior challenge due to family rejection, access to resources specific to or open to transgender inmates. There were cases when one would have to choose between the lesser of two evils when referring clients to services, choosing between an overcrowded facility that was a haven for drug use or a facility that was known for being abrasive to transgender clients by refusing to use appropriate pronouns. Oh my God, what were we to do? Just where were they to be placed, if at all? There were few places to send transgender clients where they could be treated with dignity and respect and dare I say even with some level of affirmation. There was also an issue of self-esteem. Self-esteem fostered by an overall climate of rejection by the culture, meaning my clients knew that they were rejected by the culture. They were being treated as freaks of nature, even by those in queer communities. They knew their place in the culture. They were to be an underbelly of society and stay there. So giving messages leading one to question the cultural beliefs of self-hatred was always a challenge of the day. I found that transgender persons based their self-esteem on how they were treated by the men and or customer in their lives, basing self-worth on cultural norms and media cues about transgender persons that often range from demeaning to out-and-out humor. Humor, I dare say, that was not funny. In sessions with transgender inmates, clients expressed feelings of disingenuous, unreal, and just plain not real people. This sentiment, what is also supported by many mental health clinicians who led clients to believe that their transgenderism was equal to an overall confusion within the mind. I must say that since those days of my working in the county jail, we have had huge leaps and growth within the field of mental health, whereby we have clients that understand the dynamics, where we have clinicians that understand the dynamics of transgenderism and use skills to support and affirm the trans experience. That leap proves that we can adapt to a society that supports and embraces people, transgender people. And here's how. What we need more of, more mental health clinicians that are willing to facilitate clarity for transgender persons while affirming that transgender people are indeed okay just as they are. More rape crisis advocates and trauma support specialists who see transgender people as whole clients and begin their work from a place of respect. We should also work with clergy persons in every facet of religion and spirituality to give a formative language to religious content as regards transgender people. Transgender people need to be affirmed by the culture and themselves. There's nothing wrong with being transgender. In fact, transgender people must be assured that they have access to every form of success that everyone else does. It takes time to build a culture of affirmation. But with your help and with a lot of hard work, I'm confident that we can get there. I get excited when I think about some of the successes that I had during my days working inside the county jail with transgender inmates. I am also grateful that each of you has made a conscious decision to join today's webinar and hope that you'll leave with a fuller understanding of your role in countering negative experiences and messages that transgender people receive every day of their lives. Thank you so much for my brief contribution to this webinar. Again, this was a snapshot of my experience in working with transgender clients. I am encouraged every day by the leaps and bounds that we have grown, both as a community of people and as a community of service providers who provide such needed services and compassion to a community of people who need them so desperately. Thank you for your work. I'm confident that this webinar will increase your capacity to do what you do on a more expanded skill set. I'm so grateful to be with you. Be well.